Live from New York City, the dance capital of the world, the adventures of My Ballerina and Me show.
My ballerina and me, we two are as close as can be. Whether I'm trying to climb up a tree or sitting down with you for tea, we're dancing, we're dancing. Sometimes we go for a long stroller ride, or in the playground I can go down the slide. It doesn't really matter the things that we do. All that matters is just me and you. We're dancing, we're dancing. My ballerina and me, we two are as close as can be. Thanks for stopping over to come and see my ballerina, my ballerina, my ballerina and me.
Back to the adventures of My Ballerina and Me. Today we're privileged to be here with the Maestro of the Metropolitan Opera House, American Ballet Theater, David LaMarche, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For
My pleasure.
Inviting us here. And
Right here is where the musicians go in to play. They play. That's where we call it the pit. That's where they play the orchestra, right? Yeah. They enter from both sides, this side and the other side too.
Do you like to stand at something?
Yeah,
What is
stand
it
on a
called?
big. It's a big podium. It's called a podium. Yeah, and that's what I stand on to make me higher so we can see me. Right?
Can we look inside?
Go ahead. Back here is where all the percussion players play, you know, xylophone, triangle, you heard some this afternoon, tambourine.
What do you think is the biggest instrument in the whole entire orchestra?
The biggest one probably
Like the biggest.
this one right here, bass drum. Yeah. I mean, otherwise, like, the biggest is the tuba that the brass players play. Otherwise. So they also, all the brass players play over here. The woodwind players play. See the harp in the distance there? Yeah. And then the string players all on the other side there.
What about the cello?
Yeah, on the other side. Right near the harp where the harp is. That's where they all sit.
how many rehearsals does the orchestra have?
It's different for every piece. Like Swan Lake is in our repertoire every year. So actually, this year we only had one rehearsal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they've played it so many times they know it really well. So we had one rehearsal that was 3 hours.
Okay.
And
okay.
then we just went right into the show from there.
And was that rehearsal, of course, with the dancers or just an orchestra
That one
rehearsal?
wasn't with the dancers, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we had one in the afternoon with the dancers, but with a pianist playing the score.
I see.
Yeah.
Just to set the tempos.
Yeah, sometimes we do that. Mostly we use the orchestra for our dress rehearsals, but if it's something that's in the rep a long time,
Yes.
then we don't actually.
And all the players are consistent through the years? Do you have a lot of, like, sometimes newcomers that...
Yeah, they're consistent unless they decide to retire or
Sure.
take a year off or whatever, then we have to find somebody else.
That's a
And the
pretty
string-
amazing gig.
Oh yeah, that's a great gig. I mean, this 8 weeks it's actually grueling too, but I mean, it's, you know, because you have one ballet, then the next one, and the next one. We rehearse the next one coming up in the week that we're performing one and all that, so it's, you know.
And why do you think Swan Lake is like everybody's ultimate ballet? Why is this the one that's the big one?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's a great story. It's very dramatic. The music is fantastic. Music is familiar to most people.
Yes.
And the dance, I mean, the choreography is great.
Right,
you know.
right.
The second act and the Black Swan and all that stuff. People, you know, it's so
iconic now.
Yes.
Everybody knows it, you know.
And what's the most challenging ballet to conduct?
Well, see, it depends. Like, we have different ways of being challenged. I mean, musically, there are some that are very difficult, like Romeo and Juliet, Prokofiev's Romeo and
Yeah.
Juliet. The music is hard. But then there are some where it's harder for the conductor because of all different changes in tempo, something like Giselle or La Bayadere or something like that.
Those are my two favorite ballets.
Oh my God, really? Wow. See, I'll be conducting you someday.
Is it like the part with the snake?
Yeah.
And then she
Is
dies.
that everybody's
And then
favorite
she
part?
dies. That's her favorite part.
How do you conduct?
Well,
Because
so
I had a conducting stick before birth.
That was your
One
dream
time-
to get, your
one
dream gift.
time I had one for Christmas, and then I put it in my sleeve,
yeah.
and so I sat on it,
Oh,
and
no.
I broke it.
You broke it. Yeah, I've broken a few too.
We
Actually,
rehearsed for this interview. That
Actually,
wasn't
also-
part of it.
Also, the dog chewed the
Okay,
one
guys.
part.
That's going on
Can we
TV.
stand point, you know?
You want to come into the room for a little bit, or?
Absolutely.
You know. Spacious dressing room. Have a seat if you want.
Thank you so much.
Yes, anywhere you want. You know.
Wow. This is a big dressing room.
Yeah.
Miguel, don't get too comfortable. Sorry. Overstay your welcome.
Well, it's such a nice room because this is obviously the dressing room for the Met Opera conductor. You know, we're just renting this now, so.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice room.
And in so many occasions, you've helped bail us out when we cannot find some of these beautiful ballet
Yeah.
scores. So I think Paquita, our latest
Something
search
like
was
that.
the Satinilla Ballet.
Oh yeah, that was hard, boy. Yeah.
It's difficult, and Flames of Paris. You
That's
also
another
helped
one.
us find. Why
Yeah.
do you think ballet music is so difficult sometimes to
To find,
obtain?
yeah. Well, the thing is that a lot of these ballets are old pieces from the 19th century, and of course they're not in the regular symphonic repertoire. They're just in ballet companies' repertoire. So the only people that need them are ballet companies, and so sometimes, like when we are looking for a ballet, we have all these resources. You know,
Yes.
we go to other ballet companies in Europe or in the U.S. There's a few people around the country who know a lot about this stuff. Myself, this guy in San Francisco. People are always calling us, asking us, do you know where to get this? Do you know how to get this? Whatever like that. So, yeah, and
I've always been so appreciative. You've helped us and
Well,
respond right away. It's it's the
yeah.
top of the top that I was nervous to ask you at first, but I really appreciate and to keep ballet alive is so
Well, that's the
important,
thing.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing.
So
And the
many
fact that you use live music.
We
right?
try.
You
We
try.
sell oranges
Which
and
is
chocolates
amazing.
or whatever we can
Yeah.
to work with live musicians because it's just there's nothing like it. When you see performance here and the dancers, I mean, you have the best dancers in the world. So if
Yeah.
they're holding a balance or doing multiple turns, you accommodate these things.
Yeah.
What would you advise companies and dancers in the next generation? Why is live music so important?
It's important because I think it helps the dancers to grow as artists, because then every time they get up on stage, well, first of all, there's the energy of live human beings playing.
Yes.
That's one thing. You can't deny that. That's a big thing. And then there's also, it's going to be slightly different every time when you have live music, because you have whatever, different conductor or whatever, you know. And that's good for a dancer to get used to that, because then they don't get set in one way of doing
Yes.
it, you know, which can be limiting in terms of their artistry, I think.
Can dancers at times be difficult to work with? And
Yeah, I mean, not difficult. I actually give them a lot of slack because I know how difficult it is for them. So when, I'm fairly easy to get along with. So, but when there's a difference, we usually try to discuss it and say, why do you, I don't know.
like a collaboration.
Collaboration,
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll say, I don't mind and stuff like this or whatever, stretching a tempo, all that, but sometimes I'll say to them, it really doesn't sound that great if we do this, can you do something different or whatever.
Right.
If they can't, that's fine. But if they can, they listen,
Right,
yeah.
right. And I read you began studying piano at 10, right?
Yeah,
And you
10 years old,
How
yeah.
important is it for musicians to really learn how to read music?
Well, I mean, if you're going to do stuff like this,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, this kind of stuff, of course, you have to read. Because actually, a lot of freelance musicians that come and play for us
Yes.
are what they call subs. They're just subbing for somebody
Right.
that's sick or whatever.
Right.
And subs don't get much preparation. They have to come in and read it in the show. you
Right.
know. So that's a good. If you have good reading skills, and that's obviously really.
And you told me for some of these ballets you get one rehearsal. So they
Yeah.
really have to go home and be prepared for their first rehearsal.
Definitely.
So
Yeah, if they haven't played it before, they have to. But in the classical world, yeah. I mean, otherwise, if you're a jazz musician I don't know. I think it's just a good skill to have anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's it like to keep this whole orchestra together? It's like running an army, isn't it? I mean, you have many different personalities, maybe they have different opinions at times.
Yeah,
or is everybody always easy to work with?
No.
Care to elaborate? What's
No.
like
These
controlling
these
this?
people are. I've been working here a long time, so I know
Yes.
these people really well. So I have a good relationship with them.
Yes.
But these are like high-level performers.
It's steering a big ship, right?
Yeah,
Every
and so
time.
they all have big personalities. And,
Sure.
Just but the one thing they have in common is they all want to sound good and they want it to sound good. So
Yes.
that's the thing that brings them together when you come down to it.
Well, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for having us.
You're welcome.
And I'm just going to allow, if I can, the
Yeah.
children to ask one quick question that we rehearsed.
What was the first piece you ever conducted?
I'll tell you. So the first company that I worked for in New York was Dance Theater of Harlem. And that was in 1983, and I first conducted a couple of years after I joined the company, and the first piece I ever conducted was a balancing ballet called Square Dance, with music by Vivaldi. That was and that was in Minnesota.
Wow.
We were on tour. It was the first one I ever conducted.
Was
Wow.
it also hard?
Was it hard? It was okay. Not hard, really, because it was pretty straightforward,
Was you nervous?
Yeah, I was nervous. My first time, but it went really well. Yeah.
And I guess for a ballet conductor, you have to have a lot of it quite memorized because your eyes have to be up, which is more challenging than other things that are more,
You have to keep this in the sightlines all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
wow.
Just make sure. I mean, some places doesn't matter so much, but other places you have to
Yeah.
watch.
I was watching, your eyes are up
Yeah,
a big part of the time.
Yeah,
So many visual cues.
Yeah, definitely.
What is your favorite part about being a conductor, and what is your least?
Good question. My favorite part is in the show. Like, there are moments in the show when you feel really connected with the musicians, right? And the dancers, and you feel like it's all sort of working, right? Like this chain of energy or something. And that's my favorite moment.
Everybody's working together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and you really feel it connected. Least favorite part? Well, I don't know. I mean,
The
have good
dance.
days and bad days, Some rehearsals are difficult just because of whatever. Musicians are tired or you're tired. And some performances don't quite click sometimes, so, but that's a lot of performance.
Did you always have it in your head to conduct for ballet? Was that your
No.
or did it sort of happen by fate? One thing led to the other.
It happened by fate because I started out as a class pianist.
Yes.
Yeah, and then when I moved to New York, I got hired by Harlem, Dance Theater of Harlem. Arthur Mitchell hired me. And after I was there for 2 years, he said to me, I think you would be a good conductor. Why don't you learn how to conduct? I had and then I started to taking lessons, and then that's how I got into it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did anybody in particular inspire you?
Any
through your
conductor or
career?
anything?
Who was your hero?
Oh gosh, well, there's conductors that I love, but back then I was really just on my own. I trained with some people in New York. They were like old Broadway conductors,
Oh,
So I
really?
really needed to learn the basics of how to do it.
Uh-huh.
So those are the people I actually learned how to conduct from.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So always be prepared, right, for opportunities, because you never know where it leads.
I know.
Your first instrument was piano.
Yeah. I studied piano. Yeah. I still play, but now I do both.
Why did you choose the piano as your first instrument?
Well, like my father, my brother and I were both very musical. We listened to music a lot. We liked music. We sang. And then my father said, "Do you want to study an instrument?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, let's get you a piano. You can start on piano." And so I just took to it right away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you both say thank you.
Thank
Shake
you.
hands.
Thank you.
Get up.
You're welcome.
You might
So this excerpt from Swan Lake is the Tarantella, or the Neapolitan dance as it's known. And these two dancers, this is my student Philip Hamsick and his partner Chelsea. It was with a live orchestra in the pit conducted by David Agard. Enjoy. We're going to take a look at some excerpts from Giselle with the world-famous ballerina Alicia Alonso. Alicia Alonso is a Cuban prima ballerina absoluta and choreographer. Her company became the National Ballet de Cuba in 1955. She is the most famous for her portrayals of Giselle and ballet version of Carmen. From the age of 19, Alonso was afflicted with an eye condition and became partially blind. Her partners always had to be in the exact place she expected them to be, and she used lights in different parts of the stage, to guide herself. The two-act ballet Giselle is about a peasant girl with a weak heart, Giselle, and she dies of a broken heart after discovering her lover Albert is actually engaged to someone else. One of the famous scenes is the mad scene when she discovers this, and you'll see in a bit Alonso's portrayal of the mad scene. In Act 2, the Willies, a group of supernatural women who dance men to death, summon Giselle from her grave. They target her lover for death, but Giselle's great love frees him. This here is when she finds out he's betrayed her.
sponsors who help make our show possible. When can I see the show again? I like it.
I'm glad you like the show. You can see the adventures of My Ballerina and Me on every Sunday at 4 p.m. on mnn.org Channel 2. See you next time.
Bye. YouTube channel, The Adventures of My Ballerina and Me.